Time Walk with me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Time Walk with me. I am the Time Walker, and do you have a counterspell in your hand? Will you block if I attack you with Graceful Antelope? Do you have any cards in your hand that could destroy an enchantment? These are the kinds of questions that I might be asking while playing this Frankie Peanuts deck. Frankie Peanuts is a legendary 2/3 elephant rogue, originally from the Unhinged set. Because of its silver border, it is not legal in Commander, but I built it anyway, and there's nothing you can do about it. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can ask target player a yes or no question. The player you asked has to answer it truthfully and abide by the answer if they're able until the end of turn. So if you ask them about something they might do during their next turn, they no longer have to abide by it because it's after the end of your turn. But this still leaves a lot of room for interesting interactions and restrictions. Frankie Peanuts might rub some players the wrong way, so I've included a generous number of cards to protect him from becoming whacked. Lightning Greaves, Benevolent Blessing, Fight as One, Center Soul, Feat of Resistance, Stave Off, and Beaming Defiance. This deck is meant to be very annoying, so I put in a lot of removal so that nobody else can bother me while I'm pursuing my Inquisition. Portable Hole. This is good for small creature removal. Minimus Containment. This gives an opponent the opportunity to sacrifice the creature and potentially get it back again later somehow, but it's 3 mana to take out any non-land permanent, and it gets around indestructibility. Sky Whaler's Shot. Fate Forgotten. True Love's Kiss. Divine Gambit. This is a very risky card, but Frankie reduces the risk by allowing you to ask if your opponent has anything you should worry about them getting out onto the battlefield. Intrepid Hero. This creature is small and vulnerable, but if it stays on the board for a while, it can repeatedly take out big threats. I wish I had this version of this card because Greg Hildebrandt is one of my favorite fantasy artists. Collar the Culprit. Make your move. Seal from Existence. Dispatch. Once you have 3 or more artifacts on the battlefield, this is better than a Swords to Plowshares. Graceful Antelope. This doesn't seem like that great of a card until you realize that it basically destroys lands. Unless your opponent is playing white or colorless, turning their lands into plains disrupts them a lot. And once you've hit them once, you can keep hitting them until they can't cast anything anymore. Crush Contraband. Disenchant. Reduce to Memory. Triumphant Surge. And Smite the Monstrous. Dungeon Map. Pristine Talisman. Sisay's Ring. Gauntlet of Power. This will end up helping out everyone who has white creatures and plains, but it's not that popular of a color, so I think it will help out this mono white deck more than anyone else. Stoic Farmer. Wayfarer's Bauble. Lotus Petal. Soul Ring. Cultivator's Caravan. Goldmere, and Nyx's Lotus. The more stuff you have out, the more mana you get from this. I didn't focus much on draw, which may have been a mistake, but if I get the opportunity to actually play this deck, I'll probably revise it. I think it definitely needs a Secret Rendezvous. Faramir, Field Commander, Tenuous Truce, and Lady of Slaughter. I put in some cards to disrupt the board and a few cards to protect mine while I do it. Abdel Adrian, Gorion's Ward. This gets my creatures out of the way so a board wipe doesn't get them, and it doesn't leave me totally defenseless if I have to wait a turn to do it. Wrath of God. Promise of Tomorrow. Like Abdel Adrian, this makes board wipes one-sided without leaving me defenseless. Fall of the Thran. Here's my defense of mass land destruction. 1. It's symmetrical, so it's fair. 2. Magic is a fun game to play. Why does delaying a game have to be a bad thing? By invitation only. And Unbreakable Formation. This plus a creature board wipe like Wrath of God makes a good finisher if you have the creatures to take someone out. A viewer called the King Nesalad suggested that I include a lot of Council's Dilemma cards, which are cards that make players vote on the outcome of an ability. I was going to do that, but there aren't that many white and colorless cards that do that. There's a really nice artifact called Coercive Portal, but it's pretty pricey for a deck I'm making just to be silly. Still, I put in a few cards for this category, just not nearly as many as I wanted to. Custody Squire, Council Guardian, and Lieutenants of the Guard. Shahrazade. I know it's also banned in Commander and everything else, but it's in here anyway. Stuffy Doll and Pariah. This combo causes an opponent to take damage instead of me. Sigarda's Summons. This card turns all my creatures with +1/+1 counters into beefy angels, so naturally I have cards in here to give those counters to all my creatures. Inspiring Roar. Silver Flame Ritual. Urza's Bauble and Mishra's Bauble. These are here because I had some blank spots in the deck and I had to fill them with something. They'll be the first cards I take out when I find better cards for this deck, like when I find my secret rendezvous. Raidane, God of the Worthy / Valkmira Protector's Shield. I intend for this to be cast as the shield so I can be protected from small threats, but I suppose the god is good too. March of the Canonized. This gives me a bunch of small creatures and, over time, some decently large creatures. Basri's Solidarity. Sun Titan. Strionic Resonator. With this, I can ask 2 questions during my turn instead of 1. Ruined Halo. This will protect me from the scariest commander on the board. Invulnerability. More protection from damage. Karmic Guide. And Virtue of Loyalty. This slowly beefs up my creatures, and with Sigarda's Summons, it quickly beefs them up. We got Plains, of course. Cave of the Frost Dragon. Blighted Steppe, Endless Sands. This is good for shielding creatures from a board wipe or from spot removal. It also gives LTB and ETB triggers. Radiant Fountain, Drifting Meadow, Idyllic Grange. If you get this out late enough in the game, it's free +1/+1 counters for one of your creatures. Captivating Cave, Hidden Courtyard, Lotus Field. Lands are already hard to destroy in Commander, but this is particularly hard thanks to having hexproof. Myriad Landscape, and Thespian Stage. Once you have a Lotus Field out, this can copy it without any of the drawbacks. So there we have it. That is my silly Frankie Peanuts deck. I'm sure it could be improved. Tell me if you have any tips, and I will be happy to read them. So, I'll catch you next time.